couple other people, we can go ahead and get a few things out of the way. Should we go ahead? So let's see, let's call this meeting to order, the Technology Committee for Beaufort County School District, and we will start off with the Pledge of Allegiance. You guys ready? Because I don't want to do it by myself. I always have to do it by myself. Ready? Here we go. I can't make it so.
Go ahead.
Okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay.
Right. So the media has been properly notified. We are joined here by fellow committee member, Mr. William Smith, and I didn't see if Carlton had joined yet.
He is not.
Okay, he should be here momentarily. We also have Chloe Gordon from the school board, as well as many district staff, because we're going to be talking about 21st century skills. And so there's a variety of departments involved. First thing, we need an approval of the agenda. Mr. Smith, would you be willing to make a motion? Maybe he's not. Okay, and I'm going to second that. All in favor, say aye.
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 And Mr. Carlton is just coming on.
Perfect. Mr. Dallas, we just got the agenda approved, and I have been told there are no public comments. So the only other issue of housekeeping that we need to do before we get into the meeting is to approve the minutes. Can I get a motion? Mr. Smith, would you mind making a motion again? Because I think Mr.
Sure. I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes as written.
Perfect. And Mr. Carlton, if you can hear, say.
I can hear.
All right, perfect. Can you second that?
Second.
Awesome. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. And Mr. Campbell's joined us, and I think that's everybody, right? There's 5 of us here from the board.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. All right, so then I'm going to let Mr. Shohan take over and start talking about teaching 21st century digital skills.
Wow, I don't know if I'm the right person for that.
You're the MC.
Well, thanks for coming out to the Technology Committee meeting today. And we have some wonderful people from the Beaufort County School District staff that are knowledgeable in 21st century teaching. We have Ms. Karen Gilbert from our CATE department, Mr. Nicholas Flowers from the ISD department, and Ms. Dee Appleby from our MSAP grants department. They're all going to be speaking on 21st century digital skills and how we're implementing them in Beaufort County School District. So I guess we'll turn it over to our ISD department.
Okay, so thank you, Mr. Shohan. I'll go ahead and get us started, and then we'll each be sharing our respective areas. And thank you, board members, for the opportunity to discuss a major topic that's very impactful with our students and keeping it on the forefront. So we'll just briefly give you an overview that a couple of bullet points that was shared a few presentations ago about really how technology has changed over the years. Back in 1998, we were just learning how to use technology. And then in the early 2000s, then we started to use technology to learn. And then it started then evolving where we were actually taking a transformation approach of learning with technology. And so as we move forward, the sky is the limit. And a lot of the things that we ask ourselves for our graduates that will be moving into the future workplace, wow, what are they going to be up against? And this is just a few of the things that our team pulled together that are on the forefront across all occupations, or many of the occupations. Obviously, the Internet of Things. And I know, Mr. Dallas, you are the guru on many of these topics where advanced technologies, as well as Ms. Boatwright, is automation. What are we doing to prepare our students to work with different robotics and the programming and the coding that's involved that can impact welding, automotive, the industry. And then the digital transformation of healthcare is just mind-boggling as to the advanced technologies and the different applications that are being used to diagnose, to treat, to be proactive in preventing illnesses in the future. Of course, any of these things, how are we preparing young people who want to protect our networks through cyber defense? And again, this is just a few of the advanced technologies, if you will, that's not only here already, but trending. If you had a chance to watch 60 Minutes last night, Ms. Boatright, I see you shaking your head. That was just intriguing about artificial intelligence and just how it works and what the impact could be. Next slide, please. So having said that, we thought that this slide would be helpful that we've shared in the past as to a common language that there's so many technology terms that get pushed out there, for education, for K-12. What does it mean when we say that we are exposing students to technology? And so we thought that this list would be helpful just to put in front of us again on anything from educational technology that applies to specific school subjects all the way to computer science, which is really an academic discipline of helping kids learn how to problem solve and to promote higher order thinking. So it's not always just about how do you sit down and use a software application. And again, I'm preaching to the choir. You all are very well versed with this. Digital citizenship, that's another one that we've had discussions on. What is the role of public education in our teaching and learning processes? To how do we will help students to utilize technology appropriately, and what are the ethics involved behind it, which was a huge theme with the 60 Minutes special. Next slide, please. So as a result, we wanted to put this in the forefront before we talk about what are we specifically doing to provide some resources for students. The state of South Carolina in 2017 and 18 provided a framework called the South Carolina Computer Science Framework that involves specific standards to integrate within K-12 content. There's not a separate course per se for each grade level. It's just an approach, a method of teaching, a methodology. So you can see the standards for K-8 that the state of South Carolina identified, as well as the standards for 9-12. For the 9-12, there are various actual high school courses for credit that do address several of these different areas. But again, in taking a more holistic approach of how are we helping students to be able to interact with these different areas, that's going to help prepare them for some of those things on the prior slide. That next slide, please. So for my area, or our area, it's collective, because we greatly appreciate Mr. Chauhan, Ms. Colleen Beckham-Varsky and her team, because we could not do our jobs in our career in tech ed, teaching and learning processes without their support. So for the integration of technology and career and tech ed, first of all, you need to know our delivery models. So for a couple of you who are new, obviously we have our two advanced technical centers on the campuses of Barry Creek and May River. It's just a larger footprint of a space that allows for a little more intensive specialized training. Obviously, we share a career center with Jasper, with ACE. And then we have STEM and career exploration that involves technology throughout all 8 of our middle schools that are CTE supported through federal and state funding. And then we offer course options at all 6 of our comprehensive high schools. And the key there, folks, is that we contribute to the graduation requirements. Case in point, if you'll go to the next slide, please. By offering a variety of career pathways, state-approved courses. We're up to 126 now. We have a way then to help students if they want to pursue an IT specific field, then there are several courses that can be made available to them to take. We can also align that with dual enrollment options so that they can go on to TCL while they're still in high school, or even the computer science program at USCB or beyond those two schools in our county. We also incorporate technical skills or digital skills within the scope of services, such as internships with local employers. We have Mr. Showan and his team have been kind in the past. They'll have some of our students in the computer classes that will act as interns and working with his IT technicians. We have students who are training to earn industry recognized certifications. And then of course, in the middle grades, we have a program called Pathful, in which they're exploring careers that are technology based. Next slide, please. So specifically, what does Career and Tech Ed do or can do to help our students be college and career ready? And this is just some of the examples. This is not a comprehensive list. Same thing when you hear from Ms. Appleby and Mr. Flowers. The first and foremost, I allocate out our annual state grant funds and federal funds to support our high-end computer labs and laptops. Again, with Mr. Shohan's support of his team, because we have some industry software that has higher-end graphics, so they don't always run on the individual student devices. And then we also utilize funding to support CodeHS, Adobe, AutoCAD. ALLDATA is a neat software that people maybe don't realize that we utilize in our automotive classes. It's the actual software that's used at the automotive dealerships. So students can log in, they can look up specification of parts and different vehicles. Again, skill sets for that Internet of Things. Knowledge Matters is a great technology resource. That's a business simulated program that not only do the students sit in, they log in how to manage a business, but they actually have a simulation of where they build a business from the ground up, and it's a visual approach. We're meeting the computer science graduation credits, which is critical because we can have students that they have all of their graduation credits minus the one for the computer science. And if they don't have that, then unfortunately they would not be able to receive their diploma in a timely manner. So I take that seriously. Our schools do an awesome job of scheduling to make sure that those courses that are approved by the state of South Carolina will meet those graduation requirements. Student certifications and stackable credentialing is huge. This will continue to be a major focus at the state level. So again, to infuse those digital skills, we offer Test Out A+. We have in the past done Network Plus. We have CodeHS has internal assessments to assess kids' fundamentals of some coding and programming. Then we offer through CTE another way to build upon digital skills with Project Lead the Way. Mr. Dallas, I think you've heard us talk about, I know Ms. Boatwright and Mr. Smith are familiar. It's just a nationally recognized curriculum provider, and it's just a great way to introduce STEM into really K-12. And it's called Launch at the elementary grades, Gateway at the middle grades, and then it branches off into different specialty areas at the high schools for engineering, biomedical, and computer science. So just it's a great vetted curriculum that allows students to take advantage of hands-on curriculum, taking a problem or looking at a need within the community, and then they use the design process to work around it. The biomedical, for example, has a great program where they take a virus and they have to see what's the impact of that, and they do the research on that. So again, that's technology in my mind. Middle school is important because digital literacy is a part of the career and tech ed curriculum, and it's infused within our courses. I've purchased a program called Pathful. It is excellent. The teachers really like it. And it's just many video clips that students can log on, and they can see live action of real people who are using technology on the job. Learning Blade is another one that the state, at no cost to us, that we want to implement or have increased utilization. Obviously, you've heard of Vex Robotics. That is huge. That people may not know that career and tech ed, we budget for that and support. And again, just a great way to do robotics with little machines on wheels to help students learn how to code, program, and also work together as a team. And then lastly, again, as an example of how CTE supports digital skills is obviously through professional development of our CTE teachers. And so we're very fortunate too that with additional grant funding such as MSAP, this also helps career and tech ed as well. So Ms. Appleby, I'll turn it over to you. Oh, excuse me, it goes to Nick next. Dodeo.
So with the DoDEO grant that we've earned, just as a recap, so we have 6 elementaries that are in their first year of the implementation aspect, and then our 2 middle schools start their implementation, full implementation, technically next year. But we've already started working with SREB on those skills that we're hoping to harness in on. So within the grant, we're really trying to think about that computer science integration. So we've already started to work on working on those skills integrated and with Teacher PD to bring them into the classroom. So although it is a military connected grant targeting military connected students in the program, and we're being measured on student achievement within mathematics, based on quantitative and qualitative outputs. One of the things that to keep in mind is that this grant, although military connected, is for all students. So they don't want us to do any form of segregation. So as we are working through what those computational skills and those thinking skills are, all students are being targeted within it. So one of the ways that we've really been honed in on are the maker spaces to start off this year. So when we started in on the professional development with our teachers and getting their buy-in, the feedback came as really, okay, we need to really beef up these maker spaces. And when we were thinking about computational thinking, we really need to harness then that creativity aspect and the various materials that can come into play to build that out. So that's really where we've started at. And then our secondary in the middle school have been being trained on graphing calculators to be able to leverage that technology integration over color graphing calculators, to be able then to target in on the sub goals, if you will. So although we're looking holistically at math achievement, but really bringing in those 21st century skills that showcase then having students being able to really deepen their understanding of computational thinking. What does that mean of seeing things in sequences and orders beyond just rote procedures? Really looking at a whole skill set that the students are bringing in to be able to apply deeper thinking and to bring that meaning out of it, all the way to the teacher side of it and that content knowledge the teachers have to be able to implement it. I will turn it over to Ms. Appleby.
Hi, thank you, Nick. I appreciate that. Talking about the MedTech 7 grant, if you're not familiar with MedTech 7, which is your Magnet Schools Assistance Program grant that the district received 2 years ago, we received $12.8 million in order to implement at these 7 locations a medical magnet pathway and an IT cybersecurity magnet pathway. This is where Karen and I work closely together on making sure that the MedTech 7 grant also aligns with the CTE requirements within our district. But you can see the 7 schools that are listed under the medical magnet: Mossy Oaks Elementary, Ladies Island Middle, Beaufort Middle, and Beaufort High. And then under our IT cybersecurity magnet school, we have Well Branch Elementary, Well Branch Middle, and Well Branch Early College. And the whole point behind the MSAP grant is to get districts to start implementing specific pathways for students to be successful in certain career goals. So they want to increase academic success by implementing evidence-based whole school science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics magnet programs, medical and technology focus. So our STEAM integration started in year 1. This past year was year 2, where we started implementing getting our teachers in place with our medical programs and our IT programs. And we will be running into our 3rd year, which started April the 1st. It is full implementation of all of the programs, medical and cyber, at all of the locations. At their specific location. And it's a full rollout starting at the beginning of next year. So we want to make sure that we get a lot of, go back down, please, a lot of students that are come from diverse backgrounds to enter into these programs so that we can help them choose career pathways that can actually benefit Beaufort County. The other thing that I oversee is the Gen Cyber grant, which we received last year. And this summer, we're doing a 10-day workshop for 30 high school and middle school teachers, and to teach them how to integrate cybersecurity fundamentals within their classrooms during the school year. This is a 2-year grant that we'll be following and helping teachers develop lesson plans and help them motivate other students to go into the IT and cybersecurity field. We also just applied for next summer for a student camp for 60 students to learn fundamentals of cybersecurity. So hopefully we will be funded for that position. Okay, next slide, please. And some of our MedTech 7 cyber initiatives, as you can see, we offer a summer camp since the beginning of the program. This year, we are running 4 camps, 2 STEAM camps, 1 medical camp, and 1 IT cybersecurity camp this summer, June, I believe it is. And we're also doing our teacher cyber camp as well. I'm sorry?
What are the locations of those camps?
We are at Well Branch and at Ladies Island Middle.
You only have 2 of them?
Well, those are the 2 locations that we'll be at, yes. The students will be bussed into those locations, just like we had to get schools that were currently open. Some schools aren't open during the summer. So we made sure that we had a commitment for location from these. These are the same place. I do believe that they're holding CISA. At least one of them is Ladies Island Middle or Beaufort Middle. But those are the 2 places we picked thus far.
Thank you.
Okay. We also use cyber.org and code.org for our elementary schools, and cyber.org for our middle and high schools to implement and speak about different initiatives. ZSpace is a big program that we've also put into all 7 schools, which ties into their math, science, social studies, economics, as well as their medical pathway and their IT pathways. We also have Cyber Patriots that we use out at Well Branch that a lot of students participate in. And we also will continue to support with PLTW our existing CTE initiatives. That's all I have.
So as Ms. Gilbert started off the presentation talking about how technology integration has really progressed over the past few years, we went from how to use technology to how to learn with technology, and now transforming technology. And that truly does take a village. And this is quite the village we get to work with, but it's one of the best because we're very collaborative. So we make sure we're all in the loop, we're all connected. We know projects, plans, grants that are going on in all of the different facets and departments, so that ed tech and technology services are able to support anything that can bring those skills into our classrooms. So this is just a graphic we've used in the past to kind of outline how we are able to work collaboratively together to make these skills and these programs come to life for our students. So Karen, I'll let you kick off that last part.
Okay, and so again, this is just a snapshot of some of the things that we hope for Mr. Shawan to address. How are we exposing our students K-12 to some type of existing technologies, as well as the skill sets that's going to be needed as they move into more of these advanced technologies. And so we'll continue the dialogue on what does that look like as far as learning spaces? What does a modern infrastructure look like if we want to do exploring of more emerging fields, to incorporate more virtual and simulated learning labs, the augmented virtual reality with the goggles and the big screens. I love there's an excellent commercial. I believe Microsoft puts it out on where the student is actually looks like she's touching a woolly mammoth when they're studying prehistoric times. And then obviously we always have to keep in mind our awesome teachers. What are sustainability models that's going to help us support our teachers as these skills for technology and inventions and innovations come about really at the speed of light? How do we keep up with that? And as a district leaders, how do we help our teachers to stay abreast of that? So I'll turn it back over to Mr. Shawan and any questions that everyone might have.
Thank you. Yes, it's been always interesting working with the children. It's a great thing to see. I don't get out to see the kids as much as I used to, unfortunately, but it always puts a little bit of a pep in your step when you see them actually understanding and growing through the use of technology. We've changed a lot of spaces, and I really like the way ISD brings in these programs. They do it in 1 or 2 schools. That way it helps our staff grow, and it helps us as a district integrate these programs into a more holistic approach. That way we can eventually spread it to all of our schools. The biggest part about technology is the amount of money it takes. And without these wonderful grants from the DoD, from MSAP, and the funding we get through the CAPE program, a lot of this we would not have the funding to implement inside of our schools. You're muted.
You're muted.
Is that the conclusion of the presentation? Are you ready for questions?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
Then-
so who has, I don't know if you want to put your hand up. Do any of the board members hearing this presentation have some questions?
Madam
Mr.
Chair,
Smith.
I'm sorry.
Mr. Smith, ask to make a question first.
Sure, Mr. Smith and then Mr. Dallas. Yeah.
I've sat and I've listened to the presentation, but in the event of what Mr. Shawan was just saying about these programs, just to understand it, my question is, all these programs are good to have, but how is this moving the district towards our goals? Because sometimes you can have a lot, and almost like you got a lot going on, but where's the substance, where's the teeth in it, in terms of moving our numbers and the achievement gap and taking education to the next level? That's what I'm more concerned of. I mean, we have a lot going on, but where's the teeth at in terms of the district goals? How does this align?
I can address a part of that. It's a great question, Mr. Smith. As far as career and tech ed, we're helping meet graduation rate, which is part of our strategic plan, not only district-wide, but at the school level. Again, if they are not taking the computer science graduation requirement, then that's going to impede their ability to earn their high school diploma. Career and tech ed, along with the courses that the MSAP grant is supporting, the students count that as part of their graduation credits as well. I think, would you say, Mr. Flowers, for the the DODEA grant, starting to address those mathematics and the use of computer science and working with robots and the calculators. Would you say that that's addressing our needs for mathematics?
Absolutely, especially because it takes a unique twist on it, if you will, to really show how mathematics is really, in many ways, a computer language of bringing in that computational thinking there. If we think back to even, how maker spaces and all of those various pieces come together, it brings in that math as a language, and it builds even into then how they can incorporate to other areas. Even the work that Mrs. Beckenvarsky's done with our media centers, of having them bring in the maker spaces and all of that. So this is really tying it together in a very meaningful way.
Well, my question is, how about our low flyer students? Because I'm not sure that in terms of some of what you said and some of what's going on, that our lower level students, that this could be challenging. I think this is more of some of this is more for the what do you call those students now? The GT students. I think some of these programs are more geared towards GT students. And if not, then please show me which programs are not.
I'll be happy to address some of that. This is Dee Appleby with the MSAP MedTech 7. Ours touches elementary through 12th grade. So I would like to say that, as far as it doesn't matter the background of the student, where they're coming, we have options and alternative ways of learning with anything that we provide in this grant. It is a requirement of the MedTech 7 in order to make these adjustments for any and all students to be successful at this. So as an example, with our Z-Space augmented reality programs that we have on there, we have basic math formula problems that we have on there, as well as advanced. So the student will actually go on, and the teacher has different choices to pick from for different groups of students, and however they are, either they're accelerating at learning or they're lagging behind, it still gives the same option in a different format for every student. Nick and I both, with the DODEA grant as well as the MSAP grant, SRAB supports all of our students in math, science, and I believe I think it's math and science right now, as well as ELA. So they are getting 5 additional years of additional training for teachers to teach things in different formats to reach each and every student within these schools. So I think that it's not all for gifted and talented. I think you would have to actually see the hands-on that we offer, even in Project Lead the Way and teaching it for the last 15 years myself. There is always a different path for each student to take at their own progression. And at the end, everybody reaches the same conclusion, but there are different ways to reach it based on the student themselves. So I think we are reaching out to touch and help every student from K to 12 in whatever format that they need, as far as our hands-on, project-based and problem-based learning offerings that we have.
And that's great segue, Ms. Appleby. I'll concur with that. And I like Mr. Smith, you're always a great advocate for students of all levels. And so I will say Career and Tech Ed is for all students. I think I've shared some prior data of our SPED students that take advantage of CTE courses. It's just all students are welcome. And actually in our middle schools, for those exploratory, like the Innovator Makers, the Flight and Space, the digital literacy, there are no prerequisites or required courses prior to the students taking those exploratory courses, so that we can get them in there. And if they may be struggling a little bit with math or some of their reading skills, by taking some of these hands-on applications-based courses, they can build upon those skills. I think
Ms. Gilbert spoke a little bit about our 8+ course and a Network Plus course. I would like to talk just a little bit about those. Those are 2 entry-level computer courses, and we provide and facilitate a class program and a certification track for our students. And these are not for gifted students. I mean, they can be, but these are the entry-level courses. And with those 2 certifications, somebody straight out of high school can go get a job in probably the mid-40s range and have a good entry-level job in the IT career. And if they continue to grow their certifications, they'll be well into the 60s and 70s within 3 years after high school. That's no college, no nothing. And even for the district alone, for our System Support 1, we require that they have A+ and N+ certifications. And I'm happy to say that we did hire a couple of years ago one of our the person that graduated from Beaufort County School District with these certifications, and they're still on my staff. And I hope more of our students take those courses so I can hire them.
Great, thank you.
Oops.
Mr. Dallas, you had a question, I believe?
Yes, ma'am. A question and a comment, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Smith, for asking that very, very forward-looking question. I think it's very relevant. Kudos to the people in the CTE arena, having participated in a few of your efforts. And Ms. Appleby, I've reviewed the video that was available to board members. And I think looking at that board members, the diversity of the student body that are pursuing these courses is very heartwarming. And it's very reassuring to me that any child that is interested has access. And to see the excitement on some of the faces of those young kids as they were doing the early stages of robotics was really, really motivating to me. I think one of the opportunities going forward is to take the MedTech 7 video, or what Ms. Gilbert did at the career day in Hilton Head and is planning in other places. We have to get that into the parents. We have to get that into the homes, the families. So that's talk around the dinner table, and then show some statistics of what these kids are getting when they graduate with these certifications. The influx of high-tech but small footprint companies into what we're now calling, and we're proposing it, the Silicon Garden, is absolutely, it lifts your spirits. So I think the challenge is for us to make sure we have parents and families who are talking what's available and give them some statistical data as to what their kids can earn without incurring a whole lot of debt. So again, I applaud you for what you've done. I would encourage, that is a strategic question, Madam Chair, to be pursued by the Technology Committee and hopefully the larger board. And then the second question I'd have, and this is just an observation as a newbie, I looked at the schools on the Med Magnet and then IT Cyber, and it doesn't appear to have geographical diversity and geographical location. Now, I understand that a lot of schools on the 278 corridor are at max capacity, but I would hope that there is, under the upcoming referendum proposal, hopefully it'll pass, that there is significant not only building capacity, but also programmatic capacity to get kids along the 278 corridor to also have access to these things. And I think that would be beneficial. And with that, I hope that the funding to basically explode our CTE effort and make sure with all the growth that's planned, that we're producing talent that these arriving organizations are going to just soak up very quickly and at a very wonderful pay rate for them. So that's my question and comment, ma'am.
Thank you. Mr. Campbell or Ms. Glorden? I don't see hands up. I have, first of all, if just jump in if you all have a question or put your hand up, I'll try and keep my eye on. I know Robin notices that as well. I think this is great. This is a good overview of what we have, which is exactly what we asked for. I do see the potential to have a little more drill down at future meetings because I think this is critically important stuff. So I'm going to ask a few somewhat specific questions about the different programs. And I've tried to write who I had questions for what. So starting with Ms. Gilbert, you said May River and Battery Creek have special tech CTE. That's the first time I had heard that. Can you elaborate on that?
Sure. So I think from great feedback from a board work session in December, it was important to define what are our delivery models. If you'll go back, please, to the slide before that, one more slide. There. It was apparent, kind of going back to Mr. Dallas's great comment on what is the narrative that we're sending to clarify what do we have, what do we offer that's packaged, all things career and tech ed. And so advanced technical centers are becoming more and more popular across the state of South Carolina in that they're basically either a wing or a building that is attached to a comprehensive high school that allows for a little more specialized courses that are larger classroom, that are a shop area that typically you wouldn't be able to offer in a regular English or math classroom. So hence, a few years ago, 2 extra buildings were built on the campus of May River and Battery Creek, one north of Broad, one in the southern part, to allow students to take some more specialty courses such as welding, automotive, engineering, nursing, culinary, agriculture ed. And Charleston, they just built their second or their fourth ATC center 2 years ago, and we had an opportunity to tour there. Greenville, they're in the process of building their 5th one. Let's see.
Let me interrupt.
So it's just becoming more of a popular thing to have a building or a wing dedicated to looking at specialty areas versus just regular classroom spaces.
Totally agree. And it sounds to me like it's more of a technical rather than technology, but that there's obviously a technology component. So my follow-up questions that are a couple. One, do we need to put any of this into the referendum? And that's something that I don't know if we haven't seen what's coming in the referendum, but if we are making a move towards, as I'm seeing all over the country, more advanced technical centers, is that something we need to consider with the referendum? And that's not really a question for here and now, because it may be, we haven't seen what's going on, but I think it's something to consider. Then number 2, my concern is, again, geographically speaking, if someone on the 278 corridor, they cannot school choice into May River, whereas on north of the Broad, I'm assuming with Battery Creek, whoever in that area wanted to go to Battery Creek could. Is that an accurate assessment of the situation?
If they follow our choice process and if there is capacity at that school, and you hit on a very good point, would there be capacity for students to take advantage of particular specialty programs that are technical of nature? But if they follow our choice program, if they're out of county, obviously going through the protocols to pay the fees that would be required for out of county. Again, it's just a matter of going through the process. But I like the way you're thinking, Ms. Boatwright, in that it's not so much, I know, for CTE, and I'm excited about once Dr. Rodriguez shares with you what our incredible committee, review project committee has been working on. I think I'm very pleased. So that'll be for future discussion. But it's not so much about adding. It's like you're getting to where we being very laser focused geographically as to what works for our students, so that barriers are taken away, so that they don't have to drive so far, or what are we using in advanced forms of distance learning and so on that gets them connected to the outside world. So I've always liked your vision.
Thank you. So I guess my thing for future thinking, and maybe something we'll bring back to technology committee, is I love the idea of an advanced technical center. I think it is absolutely where the future of education is heading. I think it will become a requirement. If May River is full, which I believe it is, and therefore not open to school choice, I think we should still consider having an application process for programmatic choice for CTE, because it seems, you know, and I do think it's great to have one, at least to begin with, one on each side of the broad river that is centrally located, so that it's not, people are not driving 45 minutes to an hour for that. And so, but it does seem, it worries me that someone, you know, a mile down the road from May River who wanted to participate might not be able to because of school choice. So those are the two things. They're kind of a question, but I'm not exactly looking for an answer, which is, sorry?
Well, you're gonna have a motion.
Oh, no, I was just saying that this is something that the way I see this, Mr. Smith, and if you have a motion, go ahead, is that we're getting an overview. And now I'm sort of saying, okay, here's some things I'd like to hear more about. And so whether or not the referendum, and I know, Mr. Smith, this is something you're really interested in terms of having central locations to develop technological capacity. So what the referendum planning is for these ATCs, and then also can we develop a process even above and beyond school choice for people that want to participate if we make these advanced technical centers.
Thank you.
And then I have a couple, sorry. Yeah. Robin, what's up?
Just as a follow-up, so on the work session agenda on Friday, you will be getting a referendum update. So the committee will be bringing a presentation to the full board on Friday.
Perfect. I'm just flagging that as something as I'm going through with the referendum kind of on the horizon. Like, is this something we need to make sure from, you know, we're all board members that are interested in technology. My other question is, do we have any technology internships? Like Mr. Shohan mentioned, we've hired a former student. Do we have anywhere in the county, anywhere in the community where we're doing cybersecurity internships, or we're doing computer programming internships? Or when you say tech internships on that slide, you're talking more about like CATE type technical schools?
No, at Beaufort High School, we were at the time, it was one of our bigger high schools, and we were utilizing some of the students that were in the CTE program. They were recommended by the teacher. They were some of the advanced kids in the class, and we had them shadow our local school technician for that year and help out with the minor problems that some of the kids were having. We didn't give them access to Active Directory, but we did allow them to sit in the media center and talk with kids and basically kind of get an understanding of what a system support technician does on a daily basis.
I would love to know, not because for any sort of like accountability issues, more, I would love to know what we have and where we could, you know, improve, add internships, because I know where I'm working, I'm trying to get a summer internship for high school students to just do some basic cybersecurity tech support, no Active Directory, no, but you know, to start learning that stuff, because to me, technology is so hands-on. So maybe as a follow-up, I would love to know if we have any technology specific, and if so, how they're structured.
So Mrs. Boatwright, if I may.
Yeah.
I'll be glad to get the specific information from you from our career development facilitators as to the number of internships. And my question to you would be the definition of technology, which kind of goes back to one of the earlier slides. So we have students that are doing clinicals in hospitals. We have students that are doing sports medicine and physical therapy. We have students working with Beaufort Jasper Water and Sewer Authority who are learning the systems piece, but they're working on the line, or they're doing the customer service piece with the computer applications. So to me, technology is infused in a lot of areas, not just the network or the cybersecurity or the taking apart of the computer. So I can get definitely a report for you on what students are participating in a formal internship, meaning they take a whole semester. They're under a supervision of a CT teacher and the career development facilitator, and they get a Carnegie unit of credit. Or we have some students that are as part of a career and tech ed course. They do a 40-hour experience. Again, there's a training plan, there's a rubric, it's a whole, we don't just release the students. It's a methodical approach so that they get the employer and the student receives a good experience. We've learned in the past, if you just let students out without a plan, that quickly goes south. So it'll be interesting. We'll get that report for you, but I'd love to hear what you define as technology that students are being exposed to.
Here's the report that I would love to see, and y'all let me know, other board members, if you think this is worthwhile or not. I would love to see a list of internships to currently offer, filled or unfilled. I would like to know, what companies of Beaufort, Jasper Water, where they're located, kind of to get an idea of what students might be most available. I would like to know, and then I'm imagining you guys have some sort of categorization system. So healthcare, the different automotive. And then I can call out the ones that I'm interested in because I think it's underutilized, not in Beaufort County, just nationwide. When I watch kids tear apart and rebuild a computer from scratch, and I'm like, we got 15-year-olds that can do some pretty amazing stuff. I would like to know basically the ones where computers are the focus of the internship, whether that's in cybersecurity, data analysis, network architecture, database architecture, tech support, all those things where, not that's tech infused, because everything in these kids' lives, in these kids' careers are gonna be tech infused. But when when the system goes down and they got to call somebody, those are the internships I'm interested in.
Yes, ma'am. And I'm glad, Ms. Boatwright, that you mentioned that. And since this is more of a work session, I want to speak a little more freely. One of the opportunities for improvement, which is what I think the DODEA and the MedTech 7 grant are also going to help, is that we need more of those pathways offered at all of our schools and at ACE, at our Career Center, with the exploratory and the, hey, get excited about it in the elementary and the middle grades. So what does that require? That requires staffing. That requires additional resources to make that happen. We have lots of great business courses offerings. We're solid on marketing. We're solid on a lot of different pathways. But again, it goes back to some prior conversations we've had to have a person out in the field who's making very good money. Mr. Chohan can attest to come in to take often a cut and pay to teach within the classroom. Our state is looking at some innovative ways to bring these industry specific folks to connect them with classrooms. And we'll, in the future, we will give an update on where they're at with that. But just keep in mind, as far as what you're talking about of what we're specifically offering for IT pathways, which is information support and technology, it is networking systems, it is game design and interactive media and game design, and Ms. Appleby, the fourth one is network engineering. So those four, we only have snippets of them at Hilton Head Island, at Beaufort High School, and Well Branch Early College High School. The others, we have the entry level computer science to meet those graduation requirements. But my hope is that we build upon those IT pathways at all of our schools, because we have to have teachers and champions at the schools to get kids excited about, hey, this is how it works. And if I have been an IT person like Mr. Chohan's technicians out in the real world to come into the classroom, that's where we're going to get our return on investment, to Mr. Smith's point of helping our kids to say, wow, if I understand how to take apart this computer, this is going to help me with my math. This is going to help me with my critical thinking skills. So we're not, for full transparency, I'm passionate about this subject. We're not there yet. And that's hopefully where the DODEA and the MedTech grant, these things will begin to build the capacity.
Madam Chair, may I weigh in, please? Okay. So I think one of the questions I raised was, is there building capacity and programmatic capacity that is already sort of targeted towards the referendum and then the budget to accommodate? And that's not a question that has to be answered now. but the chair is asking for what should we sort of look at going forward. And I think those are two elements, building and programmatic capacity to handle the needs, the future demand. The second thing is, to Madam Chair's point about having the listing, I also would recommend a visual chart, graph or picture that shows where programs are located by cluster, so that, you know, Joe and Jane citizen could very easily internalize this program is here, 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 because we might not have a long period of time to show them and convince them what's available in their geography. And last point I'd like to make is, having seen how, and I'm just reporting historically here what I've seen. The video of MedTech 7, I would encourage all board members to take a look at that if you have not. I'm sort of like trying to catch up to the rest of the team in terms of understanding. So I'm trying to look at everything sent. That is very uplifting, and that could be a very effective marketing tool if it's shown to parents and families so that they can see what's actually happening inside the schools. So those are the three things that I would like to just reiterate, and thank you for the opportunity to share.
Mr. Smith, looks like you have something to say. I can only see if you're down.
Yes, ma'am. Actually, and that's why I wanted to go ahead and make it, just to speak to exactly what Mr. Dallas was talking about, as well as you. That's why this time I'd like to make a motion that the technology committee makes a recommendation to the superintendent and the referendum committee that they look in terms of coming up with a central location between north and south of the Broad to have a Cape Center, and then the process of a referendum.
So, Mr. I love that. And you and I have talked about this. I think you are onto something here. What I will say is my thought on it. You tell me what you think. I do support that on one sense, but my hesitation is we're going to get the referendum report from the committee. And so I kind of want to see what they're bringing first. And then if you'd be willing to, I'd be supportive of the motion if we reviewed it at our next meeting. Could we have a motion and postpone it to our next meeting? That will give us an opportunity to see what they're actually recommending, and then we'll kind of refine down and see what that lines up with.
Okay, well, I guess I don't have a problem with
They're
that.
bringing your recommendation on Friday
Right. Okay.
to the work session.
Right.
So you probably want to wait and see what they are talking about. So then either at the work session, you can make your motion if it's not what it is that you see, or as what Ingrid said, at future technology. But they're making a recommendation, so you would want to see the information that they're bringing on Friday.
Oh, okay. Well, I can go ahead and postpone my motion until the next meeting, or until the next, when we put it out the next meeting.
I will put that on the agenda for the next meeting for sure.
And also the reason why I'm envisioning this is because also we haven't talked about this. It's not on this agenda today, but also what concerns me too in talking about technology and all this that we have going on is that, you know, I've talked about it before, we have lost Starbase. Starbase has been a large program that could possibly definitely help the district in so many ways. And we serve, Beaufort County serve a lot of military kids, and I feel that we're letting the government off because we're serving all their kids. And they had the same way how we've had resources, they've had resources too as well. In terms of MedTech 7, imagine having Star on one side, you have a MedTech 7 running, and then on the other side, you have the Starbase program running. That gives our kids so many much more opportunities and avenues to take upon that could definitely help out this economy in this area. And I think it's very problematic that the government just went ahead and did away with the Starbase program. And I'm not sure where we'll be at with that, but you know, for them to bring all these planes and all these lot artillery over here, you know, free makes so free, but at the same time, what are they really giving to us? Because we are serving their kids. And we just can't let that be unknown and just force people to real about that. I think that the Star-Based program is something that we need to look at, and that is something that we need to possibly get them to restart. And because it aligns with exactly the programs that we are talking about right now. And I don't think that it will edge MedTech 7 out in no way, shape, or form. It will just enhance the learning and the programs that MedTech 7 is offering, and that we're offering in terms of K programming.
Okay.
Mr. Shawhan, do you have something you would or Ms. Gilbert, you would like to comment on that?
Mr. Smith, thank you so much. You're right. That was an excellent program put out by the Department of Defense. And you're right, it was a great way to provide those extra resources for the military connected students. So I think when you say, Mr. Flowers, this DODEA grant addresses some of that. When the Department of Defense phased out Starbase, I believe some of the STEM initiatives are being addressed through the DODEA grant. Is that correct, Mr. Flowers?
Yes, from my understanding.
Well, I've heard a little bit different, and I will continue to check what I would like for that to possibly be on our agenda as well, so we can compare the two programs in terms of what MedTech is, what the program that we're offering now, this new grant, versus what Starbase have offered us in the past. Because, like I said, once again, they have cost more on the government versus us indirectly, and I will not stop until we have a clear vision of what we're losing and where we're at with that, because of the fact that we can't sit silent in Beaufort County in a lot of military. We offer them all the services and they're not offering the district anything.
All right, so I will add Starbase to our list of agenda items, and Mr. Shohan and Ms. Gilbert, if you get an opportunity to send a clarification, or Mr. Smith, so we get an idea of what we have and where we are with that we'll put that on a future agenda topic as well. Because right now I feel like I need clarification on that. I like Starbase too. I actually drove to Starbase when my kids were in school. Okay, so if you don't mind, does anyone else have a question? Because I feel like I'm hogging the floor here. Okay, no one else has a question. I have a couple more.
No, Madam Chair.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry, I was on mute. I would like to see a conversation about the total funding for the Kate technology arena.
Okay.
Both in the referendum and then ongoing operating expense, because I don't think we're devoting nearly enough money to that to satisfy the demand that's coming. And hopefully, as a part of that discussion, we'll bring in projective data that shows the expected influx of businesses and people into this area, including the impact from the Jasper Ocean Terminal. And I think that will help people understand we really need to amp up significantly. The second thing I'd like to have a discussion about, ma'am, if you and the rest of the team are willing, is to actually look at some of the salaries that these programs are producing. So we talk about the input and the graduation rates, which are really important. But I tell you, I think if Joe and Jane Citizen see the salaries that these positions offer, I think demand will be not only regenerative among a family, among a community, I think it will be explosive. And so those are two items would love to have some conversation on, ma'am.
I agree. And I completely concur that I feel like there is a tsunami heading for public schools.
Yep.
And some AI, that it's going to be, it's what you can do, right? With what technical skills you have, that's going to be important. So yeah, I think that's a great concept. All right, so we are just generating more agenda items as we go. So I've got Starbase, I have the Central Technology School, that's what I'm calling it for right now, just for my own notes, Mr. Smith. And then we'll have a discussion about, I think what it sounds like is a discussion about how we handle Kate going, what our referendum and our funding issues are for Kate, and then getting the community clued in on how important this is and how much we should be spending on it and what their kids can do. Because I agree, it is definitely heading this way.
Ms. Boatwright, if I may.
Of course.
So just for clarification, for the CTE funding, so since I've been in for 10 years, it's pretty steady as far as federal and state. We receive a little over $1 million of operational funds each year for federal and state. And we definitely get you, Mr. Dallas, Ms. Boatright, a breakdown of what that goes to. It's very, very finite that goes through various approval process on up to the state. So that's for all operational costs that's divvied out to the middle and high schools, because it's for grades 6 through 12 per the parameters. And then we get additional funding for industry certifications based on how many students we get to certify for the year prior. So we're supported at the state level. They're very pro-career and technical education. It's been a steady source of funding as long as we do our part. If I do my part as far as the local grant each year, where the need would come into play would be capital improvement, which that is not allowable through federal and state dollars, as well as additional staffing for salaries. That is not allowable through state dollars. But operational funds, it's been steady. And like I said, it's not so much as adding, it's being very intentional. And again, for this committee's vision and mission of looking at where are the technology trends. But yes, I'll be glad to, Mr. Dallas, get that as a breakdown. But again, I want to reiterate, it's not so much the operational costs as it is space and staffing.
If I could, thank you, Ms. Gilbert, and you have really led the march on this, and I appreciate that. I think if we are to juxtapose the influx of demand of people and businesses, I think the $1 million per year is going to seem meager for what the demand will be. And what I'm suggesting is just to, as you're saying, ma'am, to project out as to what's coming with all these capital develops. And let me give you some, not you. One of the things I've learned is Bluffton was the #1 town in all of South Carolina in terms of inflow of population 2010 to 2020. Bluffton is also 96% by right already planned and targeted what goes there. Hardeeville was #1 on a percentage basis. And in addition to that, we now have the Jasper Ocean Terminal, which is becoming very imminent. Both states are beginning to say, yes, we're going to have to do something there. So I think the skills that are needed are going to be empirically clear if we can get that data and get it into the communities. I think everybody will just be elated to be here. So again, I'm a strong supporter of this, and I'm not casting any aspersions on past funding. I just think the situation on the ground is going to be so much better, in terms of demand. That's all. Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, I see it. It feels to me like, Mr. Dallas, we're having like a return on investment sort of discussion. How much are we investing, and seeing this opportunity, and what else do we need to invest? So however we put that on, I think that warrants further conversation. So those are 3 items I have for future topics. And I've got little Post-its here that I tried to break down by person. I have a question for Ms. Appleby on the magnetic grant. What do we call it? The MSAPs? What does that stand for?
It's called the MedTech 7, but Magnet Schools Assistance Program from the federal government is who funded the program.
So here is my concern. We have the DoD grant, we have the MSAP grants, we have all the, all these different things. We are really building up the programs, for lack of a better term, north of the Broad, which I'm happy about. What I want to make sure is that we are still taking care of the other 2/3 of our student population that live south of the Broad. And so one of my questions is, my thought was, and I think I even asked this question of Dr. Stratos, when we got $12.8 million, it was my understanding that what we were going to do was develop basically a program that we would then pilot at Beaufort and Whale Branch. They were who the grant was for. But we were going to use this money to come up with essentially a program that we would then take to other schools. And that was why I felt okay. I mean, I understand the specifics, but it is hard as a Hilton Head representative to, and let me tell you, we have Project Lead the Way for computers at Hilton Head High, which is an excellent program. So we have options here. The healthcare in particular is really hard as someone who works in healthcare and sees the demand to say that, there's nothing over here that's occurring for that. But my question is this. So year 3 is starting April 1st. Is that what I heard? That's the start of the third
That's the
year.
beginning of the funding year. Our years runs different than the school year, but the
And then
full implementation will be 3-year. It will start for the 23-24 school year. Yes.
so August,
Yes.
yeah, okay. Right now, we're at the med tech at Beaufort and the cybersecurity. I also saw in our personnel thing that they are hiring for med tech at Whale Branch.
Well Branch and Ladies Island Middle. We have 4 FTEs that came with the grant, full-time equivalent positions for educators. So originally there were 2 allocated at Well Branch High School and 2 allocated at Beaufort High School out of the grant. We decided that there needed to be a position at the middle school to help them organize the pathway from middle school to high school. So those 2 positions, one remain at the high school, one remains at the middle school at each of the career clusters.
So I guess my expectation, let me ask you a couple of just really quick questions about that.
Sure.
The
Mhm.
average daily attendance of the summer camps last year. What
Oh my
was it?
gosh, it was overwhelming. We couldn't take all the kids in actually. And for the teachers as well to train and learn the new technology.
So
We
that
did
was,
drones, we did cyber, we did all kind of stuff with our STEM implementation.
how many students were at each camp on an average?
I don't have it in front of me, but I think it was around 190
At each camp or total?
total.
Okay. And how many camps did we run?
We ran 1 camp last year
So
for
there
2
were,
weeks. There were
Yes.
2 weeks. For 2 weeks, we did a STEM camp, STEM for 2 weeks, and there were 190 applicants on there.
and we
Now,
couldn't,
problem was with the first year of camp that it could only go out to the students at the 7 schools who were eligible to apply.
right. No, I get
Right.
that. So we had 190 and we weren't able to take everybody that applied. We ran out of space.
Right.
And now we're doing 4 camps. So we're going to double.
Now we're
the-
doing 2, we're doing a STEM and let me just get it out here. Hang on, folks, so I don't talk over myself here. We have a STEAM technology camp, and that's going to be at Well Branch High School. It's June the 7th and 8th for teacher training, and then the camp is the 12th through the 15th. And on the 16th, because we're not open in the summertime, we have an at-home extension for the students to take home, complete the project, take pictures, take videos, upload it, and we share it out and through our YouTube channel. And then our second session is going to be a STEAM medical camp from June 21st through 22nd. It's the teacher training at LIMS. And then the camp is June 26th through the 29th with an at-home extension on June 30th. And I think Sissa is also at LIMS with us there. Yeah, they're at Ladies Island Middle as well.
I'm sorry, and I got a little lost. So 2 camps or 4? I thought I heard 4.
It's a combination camp. So there's a medical portion to the camp, but there's always STEAM integration. So they try to run them simultaneously.
Okay. So how many
But-
kids are able to accommodate then, I guess, this summer?
It's open right now.
So, but I mean, are we doubling it to like 380 or?
I can't answer that yet until we see what the enrollment's going to be. I don't
Because-
have any idea yet.
The reason I'm asking this question, what I hope happens with all this is you guys are identifying, like you've already identified you need an FTE at the middle school, right? Like it
Yes.
has to be more than just the high school. And that basically at some point in the not super distant future, I have to say, because we're on year 3, that we have an idea of here's what it's going to take, here's how much it's going to fund, how much we need to fund it, and here's the benefit, here's how many kids we're serving, et cetera, so that the board can throw its support behind it, right? And then we can quickly take those programs and start to implement them in other parts of the school, other parts of the district as well, because I think the need is tremendous. So I guess what I'm getting at is when at some point I'm hoping that someone will come to the board with data. Here's how many kids we're serving. Here's the demand. We couldn't even handle all the demand. Here's what we think we need to make this run all throughout the district. And here's the implementation date to start moving it out to the district. And here's how much money we're going to need.
We should have those numbers by the end of next year because with full implementation, we also now have had the MedTech 7 put out as a school choice for those 7 schools. So we'll be able to collect that data of those students that want to come in specifically for those programs. So keep in mind, the first year was getting everything established and getting everything together and ordering stuff. And we did COVID was during that time. So that took some time away from us. Second year has been getting teachers trained, professional development going into place for all teachers. And our staff members from MedTech 7 trained in whatever they need to do for that specific pathway. And that's why year 3 is full rollout. And that is when we will have the majority of our data that we'll be able to share out at the end of next year.
Great.
Also, keep in mind that when we offer training, when we do professional development training, we open it to any teacher that wants to come in the district for PD. The Z Space is now over at Beaufort, at Bluffton Middle and Bluffton Elementary and Red Cedar, maybe, I can't remember. Because they've come over and they've checked out Z Space and they were interested in getting it themselves. And that's the whole point behind MedTech 7 is to establish something. You were exactly right in the beginning, and then find out what works, what doesn't work, so we can implement this throughout our district. And one other thing that the 7 schools need to accomplish by the end of this grant is to be STEM certified. That's also the goal of Dr. Rodriguez, is to get all of our schools STEM certified. And in this state, we are the only county that has even reached a majority of their schools striving for that STEM certification. We lead the way in the state.
I concur. What I would like to clarify is I think you're the person to do it. You're doing, it sounds like you're totally on top of it. And I think that Beaufort County is leading the way. I want to keep pushing us to stay, setting a pace for the rest of South Carolina, because in all honesty, South Carolina, you want to be at the top of the STEM program in South Carolina. This state is woefully behind what other states are doing. So I think that's excellent. And that's exactly what I want to hear, because what I worry about with all this ESSER money and with all this interest that it goes and goes, but we don't build a program. We use the money, we did that, and then it's done. And like I said, I'm really interested. I think you've heard from multiple people that making it geographically available to everybody, and then building a program rather than building an event, right? Or building a 1 year.
If I may, Mrs. Boatwright.
Absolutely, I want to add to that before I go on. In terms of what I'm hearing, Mrs. Appleby, let me ask you a question. For these 2 programs that you have at Well Branch and Lynn School, anyone in the district can go to those camps, correct?
Anyone can go to any of as a school choice, they can choice in. There is also transportation funding for anyone that's south of the Broad that wants to come over to north of the Broad for these courses and classes.
Well, that's the first I've heard of that. What is that?
Transportation has been built into the grant funding.
How do people access?
They choice in, and when they choice in, then they will work with transportation to get travel over to those locations.
Yeah.
Yes, it's.
And that's what I wanted to bring out in terms of where this conversation is going, and that's why I brought the motion that I brought a few minutes ago, because the fact of the matter is that one problem that I run into is that I hear exactly what my colleague was Boatwright and Mr. I was talking about the 278 corridor, but at the end of the day, we have administrators who make decisions what program they want to identify their schools with. I think, unfortunately, that some schools on the different side of the rods are targeting these programs versus other schools. So that's a conversation that we haven't really even had. So I think when you really dig into this layer by layer in terms of an onion, then that's something we have to look at too, not just as in what Dr. Stratus on staff and what Mrs. Gilbert are looking at too. We have to look at also what schools want these programs in their school, because every school that doesn't want these programs in their school. So that's something too that we have to unpack and understand and be able to stomach. And I do hear when you said that these programs are seem to be on one side, but that's why I wanted to bring out the fact that there are transportation, and it may sound unfortunately, the kid have to ride in 45 minutes, but I mean, in life, that's what you do. You make sacrifices to do what to do with the program that you actually really want. You know, so I don't see a problem with that, but that's good to know that that option is there. And so I just think in terms of it, we also have to realize too that our administrators have the option, and even remember with them just adding on a study putting this program in there, they chose to put mechanic program in their school. They could have possibly put a MedTech program in their school when they added on, but they didn't. So we just have to keep that too in the in the forefront.
Yeah, if I, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
go ahead, Mr. Rouse.
If I could tag on to that, I think the conversation is leading us to where we have to look at where the demand is going to come from. And strategically, as a large organization, I think you have to allocate resources where the greatest demand is. And to me, that is not either the 278 corridor north of the Broad. That's wherever we can expect there's need now and greater need in the future. So I think the whole county will benefit from a rigorous communication, because I did not know either that transportation was afforded to any school or any student in the entire county who wanted to go to a MedTech 7 medical magnet or IT cybersecurity. So that's the type of thing I think if more parents knew it, we would be in a much better position to expand it very quickly throughout the entire county. Thank you.
And if I may follow up on that, Mrs. Boatright, Madam Chair.
Yeah, please.
I think this is an excellent segue into what you will hear on Friday. I think that, again, shout out to the committee review project committee for their diligence in looking at what to prioritize for potential referendum. And again, there will not be my place to put that forward, but I think you all are on track in that we have existing medical related pathways at all of our schools, with the exception of Hilton Head, that we hope will be addressed in the near future. We have computer science, an intro to computers technology at all of our high schools that we hope to build upon to meet these advancing needs. We have sports medicine south of the Broad. We have health sciences. We have a very robust certified nursing assistant program at ACE and at May River. So we have the career and tech ed pathways. I think, Mr. Dallas, you're spot on. It's just that we need to get that narrative out to our communities and parents. Our employers know about us. So we just need to continue to preach a great message of what we currently have in place, where we can tweak. But there are plans that's already in the works for south of the Broad, and I think will become clearer after your work session.
That's great. And I concur. I didn't know about the transportation thing either. My thing is that these programs are so greatly needed that as soon as we can get them out countywide and not have them restricted to certain areas, we're not going to be able to replicate. And I think to Mr. Smith's point, whether or not we have the capacity to replicate all these programs at every high school remains to be seen. But it's not a north and south of the Broad standoff type of thing. It is a list of programs up, running, develop them, find out what works, and then get them out. The sooner the better, because the skills, my own personal assessment, I think AI is going to fundamentally change what we're teaching kids over the next 2 or 3 years. So let's get this stuff set up so we can start working on it. But so yeah, that was my concern. It's not sort of why is south of the Broad getting neglected so much, as we need to make sure that every student in Beaufort County, if they want to go to May River and do whatever this advanced technical center offers, thing, but they don't live at May River, they should have a pathway in there. If they want to do cybersecurity, no matter where they live, we should be able to reach them, whether it's through technology, virtual lessons, whatever it is. I don't want to see, from my point of view, and I know I'm probably more on one side of the spectrum than the other. I don't want to see kids that are, because of where they live, they are limited in what these skill sets we can't replicate, like an English class we have at every high school. So that's important to me, is making sure that we have them countywide and that everybody can access them. And it is just going to be so fundamental to their future. So.
Ms. Gordon's hand was up.
Okay. Ms. Gordon, thank you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Hey, thank you for allowing me this opportunity, Madam Chair. I want
Glad
to
to-
thank this committee and all the responses I've heard so quickly. Thank you, Mr. Smith and Mr. Dallas. I've heard your comments, and Ms. Boatright. The one thing I do want to chime in on is, can you hear me?
Yeah. Do you have a phone on?
A what?
Do you have two devices going?
Hold on a minute. Well, no, I don't. I just,
Okay.
I got you. But quickly, I agree with with Carlton about communication. And we need to do better with communicating with the parents and the communities. And hearing that the bus services are available and board members were not aware. Just think how many parents are not aware that this opportunity, because transportation is a big issue for North and South of the Broad when we talk about transporting children. So I would like to see us improve on our communications to parents about this program and other programs that we have in this county. That's all I have to say. But either way, thank you guys. This has been great.
Thank you so much, Ms. Gordon, for sharing that. It's great to hear from all the board members. So, but this has been, so I don't know if anybody else has a question, because I kind of feel like we're at a point where we have come up with yet another list of things to follow up on. I think the presentations are excellent. I am thrilled with what is being done in the county. And I do agree that Beaufort County is a top 10 county for its leadership on technology. And I think that's impressive. And my goal as a board member is to keep pushing to keep us there. So you guys are doing a great job. And I very much appreciate the conversation. And like I said, I think this was sort of an overview, an introduction to how all these different pieces work together, who's in charge of what. I do think that we've generated a lot of follow-up conversation. And recognizing that I know with Mr. Smith and myself and Mr. Dallas having talked, that the goal is to keep promoting technology, not to try to, demand answers, but more like, what are we doing and what do we need to do to get where we're trying to go with the district? So I think the district is very much on track. I have some agenda items I will follow up on, Mr. Smith and Mr. Dallas, and I'll send an email out. Is there anything else before we adjourn?
Yes, ma'am. Very brief, I'm sorry.
Certainly, Mr. Dallas, go ahead.
Very briefly, Madam Chair and fellow members, participants. I think this has been a very healthy conversation. It's been very informative for me. I appreciate everybody who has weighed in with various viewpoints, and it's helped me grow as a board member. Not for the next meeting, ma'am, but for your discretion, I would like to ask Mr. Chowan and the relative department heads of the district to begin looking at how do we use technology to increase efficiency and efficacy of our day-to-day operations, so that it's less person dependent and more system dependent, single point of entry, multiple points of access. So we don't have humans duplicating a lot of work. I'm not saying that's what's happening. When I've moved around in the business world before, that has been one of the easy ways to free up our people and give them a more reasonable workload so that they can get things done without, really having to just be 100%, 110%, 10 hours a day. So whenever you decide, if you decide that, ma'am. Thank you.
Absolutely. That is on the agenda. So I will send out a follow-up email with some agenda items, and we will look. I think tentatively we had talked about having this third Monday at 3:00 being our sort of routine time. It may need to shift here and there due to people being out. But we'll tentatively plan for our next, Robin, I don't even know what the third Monday is, but we'll tentatively plan. May 15th?
Yes.
Okay, so tentatively planned May 15th at 3 PM. We'll have some follow-up emails. I already have agenda items. I think it'll continue to be a great ongoing and supportive discussion for technology in the district. So thank you to all the speakers and presenters. I learned a lot for sure. And I'm
Thank you
on
for
you.
your, thank you for your leadership, ma'am.
Absolutely. All right, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved. Second.
I will see y'all Friday.